Project M is in a very interesting place, and there were a bunch of people that used to, stream Project M and create content directly. So VG Bootcamp, for example, was one of the biggest Project M um, sources in the community, and they had to drop it, and it's understandable. I understand that most people, get why, and I also understand why people would be upset at the transparency and kind of what happened as a fallout. But I would hope to make it clear that, if Gimmer ran Project M, still, there would be no Gimmer. So, because he would not be able to have a sub button, and he would not be able to produce any content for anyone. So that's why VG Bootcamp had to do what they do. And it's understandable to be upset. The Free Gamer campaign was targeted, in the prior summer, and they did a lot of Project M content and, a lot of Melee content at the time. But, realistically, the support wasn't really as big as a lot of people want to make it out to be. In terms of, if you really look, he had about 500 subs, and he was hovering around that, hovering below at certain points, even during Big House 4 in the fall. And so let's say about 200 people were avid Project M fans, and they wanted to support Gimmer because he produces Project M content. At about 250 a head, because Twitch takes 250, Project M, the community, supported him for $500 a month, which is, pretty good. I would say that a lot of you guys who supported Gimmer generously, I think he appreciates that, I appreciate that. It's what got VG Bootcamp off on its feet and at a place where Gimmer could go full time. However, on the flip side, it's only $500 a month, and I understand that a lot of people felt like they got cheated out of that last $5 in the last month. But realistically, on one hand, the transparency kind of sucked, but it's only $5 considering that he did 2 years of service for free. I think it's a pretty good trade. So we have reached this kind of catch-22 position where we want Project M players and community figures want to grow the game, but if it gets too big, then you're kind of stuck. Because to grow a nice stream, you need equipment, you need time, you need to travel, and if you get too big, you're not getting compensated for it, and that's why streams like VG Bootcamp and Tourney Locator opted to not do Project M anymore, because it's really hard to make all these upgrades and not have any money to show for it. So where does Project M go from here from a streaming standpoint? It's really hazy because there was an imager on the SSBPM subreddit where somebody confirmed that if you run Project M regularly, then you will not get a sub button. I'm not talking about a hungry box where you periodically runs it every so often, but I'm talking about a channel that does a lot of Project M content. And so there's that PM channel that aims to be, the centerpiece, but, it's hard to really support that. Let's say you're Tourney Locator. I'm not sure of their motives, but if Tourney Locator could choose between making money streaming another game and losing money streaming PM, it's really hard to really push and say, you gotta stream PM. So what are the alternate realities here? Since Twitch won't, really allow monetization, and that's not really Twitch's fault either. I would guess that that's Nintendo implementing some sort of policy on Twitch, the website, similar to how you can't really stream a game that's been pre-released. They bar you from streaming that, and so I think it's where you have to be creative. So I think Patreon is a good way to fund people, and I think overall, because you can't get ad money, I think this is where the community needs to really step up. If they really want content for Project M, I think you should probably donate $5 to $10 if you can a month. It's not that hard considering Netflix is $9 a month, and you probably get more view. You probably watch PM more than you do Netflix. So there's that, or helping people with equipment. So Amazon, if streamers could put up an Amazon wish list, maybe you could crowdfund equipment, like regions that are really have really good PM players. That's another solution. I talked about tournaments, at the local level. I think a big issue I see in a lot of regions is people that don't bring setups. So in certain regions, Project M is phenomenal. So Dex is, really stands out. But there are certain regions that kind of latch onto like other to Melee tournaments or Smash 4 tournaments, and then they don't bring setups. They complain a lot, and they can't manage their own tournament. And if you're a TO of another game, it's really hard to kind of babysit PM. So another way that PM can really grow is just to, be self-sufficient at a tournament. So if, another Smash game, finds a great venue, by all means, still ask if you can, use the space, but be prepared, bring setups, bring CRTs, and show up in numbers. This way, Melee people and Smash 4 people can support you, and they would love to do that, as opposed to having to deal with circumstances sometimes where PM goes, oh, I want to borrow 3 setups from your Melee side of things. Well, if that keeps happening normally, then the relationship kind of sucks. So support your local tournaments, support your local TOs, people who are putting in work. At the very least, be appreciative. Send, if it's at the end of the tournament and it's really well run, just say, hey, good job for running the tournament, I really appreciate it. And that really goes a long way in terms of making the person that's running a tournament or running an event feel comfortable to run it again, because it does get tiring. And so those little bits of encouragement actually help a lot. Drop an email, drop a Facebook message, or just say at the end of the tournament, just thank your TOs. Thank your streamers too that still choose to run Project M. See if they need any help in any way, or if you can help with graphics, or just be creative. As a community that is grassroots, everybody should be pulling in their weight in terms of helping out. And if you're a top player, or if you're a pretty solid player, invest in people to learn the game. I think that's been a huge one that we do in SoCal Melee at the very least. We help each other out. We improve people of all skill levels to the next level, and that's why SoCal Melee is so strong. So if that could be mimicked in the PM community, across the world, I could see a lot of growth if you could really just teach them how to play matchups, teach them how to do mechanics, teach fundamentals, create content. I think that would be really helpful. And at the larger scheme of things, just the reality is, I posted my other video. It's really hard for larger tournaments to run PM just with sponsors and equipment. For the very few that are running it, support them, because they are making a big investment in sacrifice. So Paragon, Low Tier City, Aftershock tournaments like those that are willing to do it just for the love of the community and they're willing to put themselves at risk, support them. Don't leave them hung out to dry. Bring setups and make sure that you guys are just a good community to work with. And I think the very few people that are able to financially sustain themselves would be willing to keep Project M alive. And so and then some other things, I don't think Project M is dying. I don't get where this vibe is going. I think that's panic, fear, and paranoia at play. A lot of people will play Project M even if it's not streamed on VG Bootcamp. A lot of people will play even if it's not at Big House. I think people need to stop worrying about that, because when people say, oh, it's dying, it creates this bad notion on social media to say, oh, I guess the game is dying, I'm going to quit and play another game. And then I guess the other thing I would just say is just, I think this is a pet peeve of mine. I see a lot of people complain about matchups and characters to no end on message boards and forums, even with top players. And me as an outsider, it discourages me from wanting to play Project M if these characters are really broken as people say they are, whether or not that's true. Because there's a lot of chatter about complaints and johnning. It's actually a big turnoff for a lot of people that might be interested. So I think just having the attitude of to just get better, to discuss okay, to get into deeper discussion of what can I do against this character, or how do I play around it, is a lot better than just complaining. And so there's a lot of great things. I know that a lot of people have stepped up in terms of leadership. There's Assault Mines. I know top players like Junebug are putting in work to help train people. I just think that we could do more of it, and I think the Project M community could take more ownership of really sustaining and making sure that the game grows and it survives, and it not only just survives but flourishes and continues to grow.